Today's episode is brought to you by 9centprinting.com. With over 100 five-star reviews, 9centprinting.com is ready to meet all your printing needs. Are you a church plant or small church with no copy machine? No problem. 9cent Printing has you covered. If you need bulletins, flyers, books, cards, offering envelopes, posters, they do it all. I know the Christian owners of this business personally, and I'm not just a fan, I'm also a customer. Fast, nationwide shipping, affordable, professional, wow printing at wow prices. Check them out at 9centprinting.com. Hey, welcome to the Small Town Pastor Podcast. This podcast is a ministry of Small Town Network. We exist to make disciples, train pastors, and plant churches in smaller communities. My name is Eric Nielsen. I'm joined today not by my normal co-host, Tony Colomb, who's playing hooky, but I've pressed Chris Getz of Garnett, Kansas into service today. He's one of our board members at Small Town Network. So Chris, welcome to the podcast. Good to have you today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
How are things in Kansas besides humid?
You know, they aren't humid today, but 2 days ago, it felt like you were breathing a lake when you walked out the door.
Well, that's the exact reason why I moved back from the Midwest to the West, to the desert. And then we also have our friend Ben Smith today. Ben is from LaPine, Oregon, and we're glad to have you on today, Ben. How's it going?
Great, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Excited
man.
to be here.
Thanks for jumping on. I was trying to remember when I met you. I think I had just started in church planning in McMinnville, and I think you were still maybe a student at BBC. Is that right?
Hmm.
Can't remember. Somewhere back
It
there,
seems
like in
like,
ancient history.
yeah. I think the
Or
first
you were
time I think I
Eagle.
remember, yeah, I was at Eagle. I think the first time I remember seeing you, I was the youth pastor at Eagle, Idaho, and you were youth pastoring somewhere. I'm not exactly sure where, but
Oh, in Eugene, yeah.
you brought students to CIY
DIY, there you go.
move in Corvallis, I think, at the
Okay.
time. So yeah, I think that's right. You were at Santa Clara, weren't you?
Yeah.
Okay, that's where I remember you from. That's where I
Okay.
remember first meeting you actually. So predates your McMinnville
Yeah. Okay. So
adventure.
you knew me
So
back when I was a youth guy.
yeah. Well,
So
I didn't really know you, but I knew of you and
you owe me,
had
yeah.
talked to you
So
once or twice. Yeah. So
the infamy, yeah. Well, Chris was actually the first youth pastor I ever hired, and he worked at our church plant in McMinnville. And so
oh, sweet.
shortly thereafter, he went back to Kansas, and Chris has actually stayed. Chris, you're closing in on 20 years, right?
We'll be 18 in March.
Yeah. You started off as youth pastor
Yep.
and then kind of outlasted all the former senior pastors and took their job.
And eventually the elders asked me if I would step up, and I really didn't want to, but I'd seen all these senior pastors fall out of ministry ahead of me, and they said, Chris, we really need you to step up. So I did, and I think it was the right move for me. I didn't feel
Yeah,
like it was at the moment, but
it's worked out.
yeah, it's been good.
I think reluctant senior pastors are the best kind, right? People that are like, I don't know.
Is there another kind? Is there another kind?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Might be a different podcast. So yeah. Well, Ben, normally what we do is just kind of have people talk about kind of their path to like faith. Start off like with your testimony, man. Like how did you become a Christian and a follower of Jesus?
Yeah, so my parents weren't believers until their adult life. They weren't believers growing up, and so they were both kind of. My mom's family was United Methodist, and her grandpa was a United Methodist minister at one point in Illinois, and but they didn't really attend church and it wasn't really part of their life. And so about the time I was born, or a few years before, maybe 1 or 2 years before I was born, they came to faith and started being discipled by some people, and so they actually raised me in a Christian home, which is awesome. So
Where is
from
that
the
at?
earliest, I was raised my first 10 years in Corbett, Oregon, which
Oh, in
is
Corbett?
just outside of Troutdale,
I
like
didn't know that. See, I'm
east of
from
Troutdale.
Troutdale, man. That's where I was
Oh,
born.
dang.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were like
Yeah,
close to each other
same
and
neck
didn't
of the
even
woods.
know
Yeah, we didn't even know
it.
it. I think you're older than me though.
Yeah,
I
I'm
just thought I'd
51.
point that out for all your listeners. So
That's okay.
um,
I own it.
Is old.
you own it. Yeah, so my first 10 years were in Corbett. We were part of Corbett Christian Church there. Used to be, it's now Corbett Community Church,
Okay.
but was back then. And yeah, so we moved to Corbett when I was 3. My parents are both from the Portland area. And so anyway, yeah, just from my earliest memories was going to church, being in the church kids ministry and stuff and learning all the songs with the motions.
Oh yeah,
And
man.
yeah, it'll stick with you, unfortunately. But yeah, so kind of grew up in that. When I was 7 years old, I my Sunday school teacher, um, I think it was second grade Sunday school teacher, was like, you guys should really, if you want to follow Christ, you should be thinking about baptism. And so I thought about it, talked to my parents about it, and I was baptized on Christmas Eve.
On Christmas Eve.
Night, yeah, 1980. I guess that would have been 84. Yeah, 1984 Christmas Eve. So
Okay.
yeah, but yeah, and of course, understanding the gospel as much as you can as a 7-year-old, and but kind of as I grew up, I kind of really my faith really took off in high school.
Mhm.
Got we moved to the Dalles, Oregon, and had an awesome youth pastor there at our church, a guy named Mike Wilson. Great dude, just retired from ministry, went to his retirement party. He'd been in the same church for like 40 years.
No way.
Not as a youth pastor for the entire time,
40
obviously, but
years.
yeah, like 40 years in the same church. Just an
Wow.
absolute beast. Great dude.
What church is
And
that in the Dalles? What church is that?
it's First Christian. Hmm.
Okay.
The Dallas First Christian. Yeah. So yeah, and that's where my faith really took off, and felt a calling to ministry at Camp Wainema on the Oregon coast as a freshman in high school.
Okay, wait,
And
wait, wait. You were a Camp Wainema guy too?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Dude. So that's
yeah.
like my family's camp. My mom grew up going to Wainema back in the day. I went to Wainema, never missed a summer. My kids went to Wainema. My daughter's baptized at Wainema. So, and then when
Nice.
I directed like kids camp for like 10 years at Camp Wainema. So, yeah, man, shout out to Camp Wainema. People,
Yeah,
people
heck yeah,
that
man.
don't know, Chris, I mean, you were at Wainema when you were our youth pastor,
Lots.
right?
Well, I was there as
Yeah.
a student too.
Oh, you went there as a student because you were at what, Monmouth?
First Christian Church in Monmouth. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went to
Nice.
Quintanilla some years out in Sweet Home, and then other times we went to Wainema.
I've been to a lot of church camps in my life, and there's a lot of great ones out there. And I'm not saying Wainewa's got the best facilities or stuff like that, but man, it's hard to beat the ocean at your church camp.
Oh,
Hmm.
There's just
Pretty,
something
it was
about
pretty
that.
rad.
So
well, not
anyway,
our
like go
school.
back. Go ahead, man. I cut you off, but you were at Camp Wainema
No,
youth
not a whole
group.
lot more to say about that.
Yeah.
Just that my youth pastor kind of took me under his wing, and you know, took me a while to figure out. I mean, the Christian church was not necessarily like a clear path to a vocational ministry. I don't feel like it is in some denominations where it's like you get this and then you go get that certification, blah blah blah, and then but anyway, eventually ended up in ministry. So committed my life to full-time ministry as a freshman in high school, and I've been, it took me, like I said, a couple of years out of high school to figure out the pathway, and then ended up in full-time ministry. I've been doing it now for a long time.
So,
So
what was the draw, man? So, I mean, as you think back about that calling, and I think this is important because, we're facing like this massive shortage of
yeah.
Christian leaders and pastors and churches, and what was, I mean, I can remember my incident, but for you, like, what was the thing that kind of like caught your attention, and was it a supernatural experience, or like, oh, that sounds like a good career path, or like, what was the draw?
Mm. Well, I mean, uh, I loved the culture around youth ministry at that time.
Hmm.
It had a culture to it. And it not only did it have a culture to it, it had some, along with that culture was the people that help create that culture. And there was a dynamic charisma to a lot of the student ministry leaders. of that era, and my youth pastor included. And I think it's inspiring. I think you know for young people that have never really thought about it as a career, like why would I, that's like, no, careers are like firefighters and police officers and things like that, not people who go to camp with high school students. I think that was part of it, just inspiring. I think leaders inspire leaders. And we see this with Jesus too, right? I mean, Jesus inspired 12 young men, and great men inspire other great men. Same thing with women, right? Great women inspire great younger women, which is why, the Bible says older women teach the younger women, right? So I think we're drawn to those kinds of mentors and like role models, and I certainly was that for me. So that was a big part of it, but it was also kind of a calling to how I had grown through the youth ministry. And so it was kind of a calling to say, like, hey, what you've gained from this, I want you to help create for other people.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
so so that's a lot of what it was. So
I think that's great,
yeah.
man. That idea, like that leaders inspire leaders. That's a great like phrase. Like, I had a benefit of like having a very strong youth pastor who was always challenging students to go into ministry. And I don't have you heard of the name Mike Halstead?
Oh yeah, he was there at Wynema.
I was gonna say he was probably
He was
one of
there
those
that year.
guys, yeah,
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
at those same camps. Um,
Mike
because
Halstead was at Mountain View at the time.
yeah, that was my home church. Yeah.
Okay, in
Yeah.
Gresham.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Halstead was there. And my dad's roommate in college was attending Mountain View. I think still does attend Mountain View,
Who is
50
that?
years later. His name's Dick Carroll.
Oh yeah, Dick Carroll was like one
D-
of our youth sponsors, and like his kids were like friends of ours, went to youth group together, and oh yeah, that's funny, man. It's a
Yeah,
small
he's a
world
great,
in
great dude.
ministry for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. So like that back to the idea, leaders inspire leaders. When you're around strong people that have a strong vision and passion for something, it's contagious. Um,
Hmm.
I mean,
Mhm.
Christy, I saw you nodding your head as he's talking. Did you have something like that going on, like was when you were like young and in youth group and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, sadly, we had a lot of youth ministers come through our church. I don't think I ever had one more than maybe 18 months,
Mm.
but I did finally connect with Sean Moyer. He
Oh
was
yeah,
integral for my faith, and then really pushed me hard into the camp scene. Or connected with Larry Osborne eventually, and between those two gentlemen, I ended up giving my life to Christ and going into full-time ministry. And I mean, God's been using me ever since, which is pretty exciting to be a part of.
dude, I can't tell you how many episodes of our podcast that we've had someone mention Larry Osborne. I'm serious. I mean, like, and I'll text him once in a while and be like, "Hey, man, you came up in our podcast again." And
Heck yeah.
there's just so many young ministers that were impacted by the work of Larry and all the kind of like to Ben's point, kind of that generation of youth guys. So you didn't
Mhm.
go. It sounds like you had a couple years after high school before you kind of went to Bible college and stuff. So what were you doing? Just kind of, were you working? Were you just hanging out?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I took a job at Les Schwab, and I was a Schwabby. So
Schwabby, that's a thing.
yeah, yeah. So did that. I worked for the Forest Service for a couple summers also. Just kind of, I don't know. I was just kind of, I think my youth pastor did like say, hey, if you're going to be in this for the long haul, you probably need Bible college and that kind of thing. And I was kind of resistant to the idea at first.
Hmm.
Um, and then it was actually, I took my first paid ministry position, actually in this church that I'm in right now in LaPine, in 1997. I took a position here as a part-time youth pastor. And I won't go into the details of how I landed that, but anyway, I ended up as a part-time youth pastor, and one of my students here introduced me to her older sister who was out of high school, and I bring that in for clarification because this starts a lot of stupid rumors.
I'm
But she
guessing
was
you ended up
not in
marrying
high
her.
school. I did. Yeah, yeah. I introduced me to her older sister, who's now my wife.
Who was
So
graduated
who was graduated, 100%
and
legal,
over 18.
fair game, no foul play involved. So anyway, yeah, and it was actually after we got married, and I've been serving in this church for about a year, and just as youth ministers don't make much anyway. Part-time youth ministers make even less. So I realized, like, hey, if I'm going to support a family on this calling, then something's going to have to change. So we made the decision to pack up and go to Boise, and ended up in Bible college. So
Okay, so you were like one of those guys that went to Bible college already married.
yes, yeah,
Okay.
yep,
Yeah, I
yeah,
did that
yeah,
too. So what's interesting with that is like, people will talk about their college experience or the Bible college experience. They always talk about dorm life and stuff like that. And I'm like,
yeah.
I never had that.
I
So
know.
just kind of
Yeah,
bypassed that whole
yeah.
thing.
My dorm life is very different from most people's
Yeah.
dorm lives. So.
My dorm life in the 4 years I was at Ozark Christian College, my dorm life included two small children.
Mm.
So yeah,
Oh
there were
wow,
different things going
dang.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't even arrive at Bible college till I was 21, and
Okay.
actually I had just turned 22, so
Okay.
I was a little late to the game.
So why'd you pick
But
Boise Bible College? What was the connection?
well, actually there was a recruiter that contacted me.
Mm.
Um, her name was Bobby Putnam,
Ah.
and yeah, she was one of the recruiters for Boise at the time,
I remember that.
and yeah. So she was actually rolling through LaPine one day. She somehow found out that I was uh, in youth ministry but uneducated,
Mm.
and decided that she would meet with me. So I had lunch with Bobby, and she was like, "Why don't you come to Boise? Come check it out." So I went there for preview,
Hmm.
um, and decided, yeah, it's close to home, and I wouldn't have to move halfway across the country. Um, so uh, yeah, so that's how I ended up there. But
Yeah, makes sense. Our I went to Ozark. Chris went to Ozark. We're both Oregonians, like born and raised in Oregon. Um, but for me, it was like my senior pastor was from Ozark. That was like the connection. Is that yours too,
Hmm.
Chris?
Yeah.
Or Sean, right?
Yeah. Sean went to Ozark.
Yeah, so I think a
And
lot of it's who you
him.
know and stuff like that. But and I
nice.
love Ozark and I'm a fan and stuff, but I've worked my entire life in the Northwest, and in hindsight, it probably would have been better, more strategic to be networked with Boise than with Ozark. That doesn't do me a lot of good out in the Northwest. But yeah. So you had a kind of a series of jobs, and not to say you bounced around a lot or anything, because you actually haven't, but walk us through. You do 4 years at Boise, and then you ended up on staff at Eagle first. Is that right?
Hmm.
So kind of
Yeah.
we're gonna kind of there's a reason why I'm kind of doing this, but you went from the Bible college to kind of one of the local. I don't know if at that time it was like a mega church or not. Today it would be considered a multi-site mega church. What was the pathway? How did you get connected to Eagle on that?
Yeah, we actually started my freshman year. We started, one of the professors at BBC was involved in the children's ministry at a different church, and he kind of roped us into that. So my first year at Bible college was that, and then one of my other professors, who was an adjunct, who was the senior minister at Eagle, Steve Crane, taught a couple of my classes at Boise, and I met him through sitting under him in one of his classes,
Okay.
and he was like, why don't you come out and start working with our youth ministry? And they had a youth minister, actually, kind of, I don't remember if he was like dedicated youth minister, or if he was like part-time in other
Right.
other areas as well. I think he was kind of an associate pastor at the time. The church was probably running about maybe four or 500 at the time.
Was it really?
Yeah, it was. They were still worshiping in what's now the gym, excuse me.
Okay.
And yeah, and so yeah, basketball hoops, and
The whole thing.
It's kind of a weird gym, like it had a carpeted floor. So if you dove for a loose ball, you only did it
Oh
once.
yeah.
Or
It's
been there.
brutal.
Everybody makes that mistake once. Yeah.
Anyway, so so that's how I got connected there. I started working underneath their associate minister at the time, and through a series of events, they eventually brought me on. Actually, the summer before my senior year of Bible college, they brought me on full time as their youth pastor.
Mhm.
So the church was growing, and so they brought me on full time. I was still had a whole another year of school left, and so I just kind of juggled those two. And I was there for a total of 7 years, I want to say.
Okay.
Um, 7 years at Eagle. Yeah. So I started in high school ministry. During that time, our youth ministry, just like the church, like grew like crazy. And I'm not saying that's because of me, but probably more in spite of me. Yeah, the church exploded. Started to become more of a mega church. I think it was running a couple thousand people when we left,
Mm.
and but eventually brought on a full-time junior high pastor,
Hmm.
which is every youth minister knows is a huge blessing.
Yeah, right.
To
I've
delegate junior high ministry to someone else.
never had
Um,
that blessing. That sounds great.
yeah, it was pretty awesome. So I was just high school ministry, had somebody else doing middle school ministry, and yeah, and so um,
And from there, is that when you went to LaPine?
yep, yep,
Wow. So tell
yeah,
us that
I
story. Yeah. Mm.
yeah. So transition from Eagle to LaPine. There was so this church, I knew this church already, and they had called, obviously, as the youth pastor here in part-time youth ministry for a year before we went to Bible college. So as I was after I had finished Bible college, the preacher who had been here at this church when I had served here, um, he'd been here for like 22 years or something like that, and the senior minister, and he was retiring. And so they had been looking for a pastor to replace him and couldn't find one. People didn't want to move to Podunk, middle of nowhere, LaPine, and so just couldn't find anybody. And so finally, and the church had, in the process of having an interim or two after he'd retired, um, the church had dwindled pretty small, and I knew there were some challenges here at the church. And I just wasn't. They had actually called me and said, "Hey, would you come and take over the senior ministry position?" Well, I'd only been in youth ministry at that point for maybe like probably been out of Bible college for 4 or 5 years.
Hmm.
And so I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for that. And so I turned them down 2 or 3 times. They had called me and asked me, and I just kept telling them no, kept telling them no. And so I was familiar with their situation. And then I heard that they'd partnered with the OCEF, Oregon Christian Evangelistic Fellowship, to do a reboot because the church had really dwindled and was struggling. And they couldn't, by the time they found someone that was even willing to come, they couldn't afford them. And so they partnered with the OCEF to do a reboot. So there was OCEF funds that helped kind of reboot this church and back in 2006. So they ended that partnership and they brought in Terry O'Casey from Seaside. And so Terry O'Casey came in, and of course uh he's a go-getter. And so and when I heard that Terry had come, um, I was like, I love the area and love the church, but I was like, I don't have the experience. I knew that the church needed some revitalization, and so I was like, I just don't have the experience for that. I've never been a senior minister,
Good for you,
let
man.
alone a senior. And so I just was like, no, I'm not the guy. And so he came in and did a lot of the initial. Him and Bob Wood and the OCF did a lot of the initial reboot of the church. And I called him about 10 months after, 8 months. No, it wasn't even that. It's like 5 months after he got here and just said, hey, you know, if the church grows, and I know it will, and you're looking for a second guy, keep me in mind. I'm looking to kind of make a transition out of youth ministry. I had two small kids at the time, and so youth ministry was great, but it was the kind of youth ministry in a kind of a burgeoning mega church like that. Just the pace is crazy,
Mm.
and so anyway, I'm leaving some stuff out here, obviously skipping over some things, but that's kind of how it happened. So,
So how big
um,
is LaPine when you move there, maybe?
oh gosh,
It's
I don't know how
obvious.
big it was when I moved here, um, but it's grown considerably.
Mm.
Um, it's probably grown by I don't really know what the numbers are. Probably grown by 30% easily since I got here. Probably more, maybe more. I don't know.
It says in
But
2000 it was under 6,000. And now it's wait for the Google machine to get spit out the answer. Yeah, that's grown. It's funny how it like sometimes it won't give you like the
yeah,
exact number.
well,
Oh,
LaPine's
it's talking
weird.
about like areas. Okay, whatever. Yeah.
Well, so the LaPine area right now, well, a statistic I heard about 5 years ago said we had 18,000 power meters in the greater LaPine area,
Holy
which
cow.
is not 18,000 people. It's probably more like 15 to, I don't know, somewhere in there, 15,000 people in the greater area.
Yeah, man.
Um, our downtown, like our city, only has
City.
like 2,000
Yeah, right
people in it.
now this is saying it's like 2,500. So Chris,
Yeah.
what's your town in Garnett?
About 3,500.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's the county seat of like this really rural county in Kansas. Beautiful, by the way. Um, but you're not the county seat, right? You guys are part of the county that Bend is in?
Yeah, we're part of Deschutes County. Yeah, in
Deschutes
Bend,
County.
Bend,
Okay.
Bend is Deschutes County. Bend and Sisters and Redmond are all in Deschutes County.
So
So
you actually have like a
um,
larger city in your same county. So
three bigger cities in our same county.
oh, because
So
yeah,
yeah,
is Redmond in Deschutes County too?
yeah, yep,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So Redmond, Sisters, and Bend are all bigger than us, and
Okay.
we're
I
the
get
ugly stepchild of Deschutes
okay.
County. So
So people that have not been to LaPine, Oregon, I love LaPine. My parents have a house out there. It's like one of my favorite places to go on earth.
mhm.
But as historically, it has been kind of a backwoods kind of, I don't want to know how I want to say redneck, but kind of a more rural vibe. And one of my favorite stories of Terry O'Casey when he went there, and it sounded like there was some ups and downs in the revitalization of this church, is he told this story, and if I'm mistelling it, you please correct me, but that he came to church one day and the secretary had a gun on the desk. Like, what is going on?
You don't do that, Eric?
And she's like, some guy called and was, threatening to make trouble, so I just wanted to be ready or something like that. And I'm like, get out of town. That is hilarious. I mean, the way he
Oh
made it
yeah,
sound like it was the Wild West out there.
it's grown a lot, but it hasn't. It has changed, but there's still some of that for sure.
Yeah,
Like,
man,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
great.
So
So,
I'll just put it this way: we have a safety team at our church, a security team, and they are used on the regular. So
they're
I'll
used
put
on
it
the regular.
you put it that way. Yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
okay.
So yeah,
Little
yeah.
sporty. I was there last summer and I didn't notice a thing, so they're doing a fantastic job.
Cool. Good. Good.
So let me think about how to transition this. So Terry O'Casey went as the older experienced guy. He brought you on as the younger guy. And I know that he mentored you a lot. No, I'm going to save that, save that for the next episode. Um, but he was there for how many years before you kind of took over as the lead pastor there? Roughly. I mean, like,
Yeah. So um, he was here for about 7 years.
okay.
Um, so from '06 to whatever that is, 2013-ish.
Mhm.
He was the senior and I was the associate. About 4 years into that, 3 or 4 years into that, he took a position at Northwest Christian University, which is now Bushnell over in Eugene, as the Christian Ministries professor over there. And so he was still preaching here on the weekends, but I was kind of like this in this weird uh place, I guess, of being like that, kind of the acting senior pastor during the week because he was gone. He was over there doing teaching classes and stuff, ministry classes. And so I kind of got my feet wet in terms of being the guy, um, for several years before I actually stepped into the full-time preaching role. But he was still preaching every week. So I was doing a lot of the administrative stuff, taking care of things here at the building and that kind of stuff before I became the preacher. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, why don't we stop there? And then I'd like to revisit that when we start our next episode. Because there's been a really cool thing that I watched, kind of from afar. I really saw Terry, mentoring you, pouring into you. And now I've seen you doing that with your guys at your church. And I think that as we face kind of this shortfall of pastors in our country, and the Bible colleges are struggling, a lot of the young people aren't going into ministry like they used to. And then there's also been this kind of renewed passion for discipleship. Um, I think that what I see, again, just from what I perceive, and you can tell me if I'm off base, but what I see is that you've kind of taken what's, was given to you, and you're passing it on to the young men and other men around you and behind you, with the same kind of thing. And I think that my suspicion is, and I can't prove it, I don't have like data in front of me, but that a lot of pastors aren't doing that. We're not raising up the guys behind us and have a vision of succession and raising and sending out other guys. So we'll save that for the next episode and get into that. For the listeners, I want to thank everybody for listening, for tuning in. I know we have a bunch of faithful listeners, including my mother, and my wife. So we have at least two that I know listen every week. So thanks to those guys. If you like what we're doing, we'd love you to subscribe wherever you watch or listen. Be sure to check out our sponsors at 9centprinting.com. And if you're interested in what we're doing, you can find us online at smalltownnetwork.com. You've been listening to the Small Town Pastor Podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by 9centprinting.com. With over 100 5-star reviews, 9centprinting.com is ready to meet all your printing needs. Are you a church plant or a small church with no copy machine? No problem. 9-Cent Printing has you covered. If you need bulletins, flyers, books, cards, offering envelopes, posters, they do it all. I know the Christian owners of this business personally, and I'm not just a fan, I'm also a customer. Fast, nationwide shipping, affordable, professional, wow printing at wow prices. Check them out at 9centprinting.com.